How many people have a mother? Okay, where did the rest of you guys come from? Today is Mother's Day. And it's a bittersweet day for me. It's my first Mother's Day without my mom. And yet, I just want to know how many people here knew my mom. Okay, about 4 or 5. By the end of this day, I hope you'll know a little bit about my mom. The slideshow presentation is a presentation that we had put together for Mom's funeral. And it just shows her life from the time she was a kid up through, ta-da, to what she was at the end. 1 Corinthians says, 13:3 says, and now these 3 remain, faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. God's love, mother's love. They're kind of the same. It's an unconditional love. And I just want to share with you today, this Mother's Day, just how much my mom shared her love with the people that she knew. She loved God most of all. She loved her family like nobody's business. She loved the communities that they lived in with everything she had. She was a contributing factor to the pastoral ministries of my parents. And she really was Dad's right-hand person, and she was his helper through all the years that they ministered. She was the second of 4 children, and she had a very strong connection with her parents and with her siblings. There is now only one left. Her brother that was right after her is still living. He'll be 88 this summer, and he lives in Florida. Lucky him. And but I'm sure he's having a tough day. He just lost his wife just a couple of months ago, and so he's likely having a tough Mother's Day today too. My mom gave her life to Christ when she was just a young child, and I'm faithful for that. I'm glad that she shared that love for Christ with me. In the early 40s, Mom would take the riverboat to Beulah, and there she spied this handsome dude across the campground. And after a few years of letter dating, I guess Dad was out in Alberta most of the year and would come home in the summertime. But in 1946, October 2nd, Mom and Dad declared their love for one another and to God, and they began 36 years of pastoral ministries. Times were tough. Pay was almost non-existent the first couple of years. They ministered in a little country church. Dad told us when we were little that, Erwin, Reg, and I think were just starting. Dad came to me and he said, my first church, my salary? I said, what was it? He said, well, it was $7 if it came in the offering plate. He said, if it wasn't, I got whatever came in. And so things were tough. But Mom, always with her love for the family, always took care of things. She was very frugal, and she knew how to reuse things. They say that the old folks don't know how to recycle anything. They have all these recycling things set up now. Well, some of you older folks, you know how to recycle better than us. Dad always had a garden that was bigger than the community he grew in, lived in. I always said that he could have fed the whole community with just his gardens. And in the heat of the summer, Mom would be standing over the stove. Sometimes it was a wood stove. Later years, it was an electric stove. But she slaved over the stove, preparing those foods for the winter. And how she worked to provide for us, I am so very, very grateful. When we were small, Mom made all of our clothes. Wonder where all the material came from. She said she took apart their worn clothes, Mom and Dad's, and made the clothes for our kids. My brothers, their pants and their shirts were made from Dad's shirts and pants. She would take the less worn of the material and she would make their clothes. I don't know if any of you ladies here remember when your skirts, your dresses, the skirts were a bunch of material that was gathered onto the waistband. Mom said that was an excellent source of material for us girls. And that's where our dresses came from when we were little. She always used what she had. When I started school, back in 64, 65, I know I'm old. I guess Mom decided, or I guess economics decided, with the raising of 4 kids and 1 kid almost ready to go to college, that Mom would have to go back to work. And she had her teacher's license from before she was married, but they required her to do some upgrading. And so for a couple summers, Mom did summer school. And in the midst of all that, she still took care of the house and was involved in all the church work that she was involved in. And never, ever did I ever hear Mom complain about any of those things. And sometimes it wasn't always the easiest, but we made do. I remember that summer, especially the first summer that she went to summer school, and she took off to Halifax to go to summer school, and Dad loaded us in the car and took us to Beulah, all by himself, him and 4 kids. And back in those days, I know some of you guys have heard Bruce and Roxy talking about how they had to do the water system this year, and they had to have, with the new water system at Beulah, they have to have the water tested and all this kind of stuff. Back then, the water didn't get tested, and most everybody always got some sort of a stomach upset. And I can remember Dad, I was laying on the couch, and Dad had gone and gotten some of this strawberry extract-y thing. If any of you guys remember what that stuff? Ugh. He tried to give me a spoonful, and I spit it over him and over the cottage, and everything was covered. And at that time, he was like, "Where is Avis?" But I survived, he survived, and we talked to each other right through to the end. While living in Heartland, Mom was head of the WWI, and they would have their meetings at the parsonage. And I can still remember the days of sitting with the ladies, rolling bandages, putting scripture verses on the back of cards. Most of them were old Christmas cards, but you'd cut the front off, and we'd paste a scripture in, and that would go to the missions, and they would distribute them to the people. And they made quilts for the missionaries. And I can remember my first time quilting was at those WWI meetings with this quilt stretched out between our dining room and living room, and sitting beside Mom. And Mom would say, "Now make your stitches small and make them even." This over here is one of the quilts that my mom made for us. She was a very crafty lady, and she knit, she sewed, and 14 years ago, I taught Mom to crochet. And I said I never understood why she never learned. Her mother was the most phenomenal crocheter, and her work was beautiful, beautiful. And Mom said she just never, ever seemed to be able to pick it up. And so when my grandmother was in the hospital in her last days, Mom asked me to teach her to crochet. And so I did. And over the next few years, Mom made each of us, in my family, a tablecloth, and this is mine. And there are 4 in storage right now for the 4 grandkids that she had at that time. And they are to be given to those kids on their wedding day. And so, if they ever get married, but we were going through it, and I told my sister, and I said, "Joan," I said, we might have to put an age limit on these things, because I said, the way these kids are going, they're never going to get married. So we'll have to see. Mom loved to take care of her kids, and she loved her grandkids. And she started when Brian and Fern were the only ones in our family that had kids, and they had 4. And when Sarah came into this world, when she was old enough to eat cookies, Mom started a tradition of making cookies, cut-out cookies, at Christmas and Easter for the grandkids. And she would have a special tin that went to their home. And that was how they got their cookies. And when we were sorting through the things of Mom things after she passed away, the tin that went to my brother's house, my great-grandson said, "Can I have it?" And so her great-grandson, not my great-grandson, my great-nephew, and he said, "Can I have Nanny's tin?" And so he has it now. I don't know who's going to fill it with cookies. His Nana and I have talked about it, and I think she's likely better at doing cookies than I am. So we'll see whether those things get done. My mom was a fantastic cook, and much better than I am. She was really good at meal planning, and if you ask my husband, that's my most hated thing next to house cleaning. But planning a meal, I have a hard enough time planning one meal a day, and how to plan a lunch and a supper and all that stuff, I'm not really good at. But I loved her bread. She made fantastic pies. I loved her ham dinners, and they were my favorite. She made a Jell-O salad that the grandkids loved, and we have all tried to replicate it, and we use her recipe, and it never turns out like Mom. For some reason, I don't know. She made a really good chicken divine, or however, yeah. Some of you guys know the story about Mom's chicken divine, and Mom always, or however you guys said, Mom would try to do it perfectly. And after Reg and I had been dating for a little bit, and I decided that he should come to visit my parents and get to know them, and they could get to know him. And Mom, I think for like 2 times that we went, Reg came along, and Mom, that was what she served. And guess who got the bone? Him. And so Reg always makes a joke that Mom tried to kill him. Even before we got married, she didn't want him in the family. But that's another story. No, she didn't. No. She always wanted her house to be clean and tidy, and it was. You could eat off of Mom's floors. Mom was one of those ladies that to scrub a floor, you were on your hands and knees. And my sister's favorite story, when I was getting prepared to talk, I asked all of my family what their greatest memories of Mom were. And my sister said, she said, my best memory is the day that I had your wedding shower. She said, I was running around trying to get the house straightened up and get the food ready and all that. And she said, and Mom decided that she was going to scrub my kitchen floor. So she said, down on her hands and knees she went, and she scrubbed my kitchen floor that day. And I said, Joan, Mom scrubbed all of her floors on her hands and knees all her life, I think. I said, I got to her house one day, walked in the kitchen, you could see right down through the hall, and all I could see was Mom's butt in. Coming out of the bathroom, she was on her hands and knees scrubbing the bathroom floor. And I know she had a mop, but she always said that scrubbing it with her hands down on it, she could actually see that she was getting the dirt. So that's why she did that stuff. Let's see, I already talked about that one. She tried to stay active all of her life. She never liked to put on weight, and her and Dad were the same. They always tried to stay active all of their lives. Mom walked circles around the car in the garage, and there's likely a worn spot there, but she always said I felt safer doing that than she said trying to walk the road and the trucks whizzing by. And their road is a very busy one for trucking, and she always felt it was safer that way. So she stayed inside. Last summer, Joan would walk her around Beulah, and the longer that they would go, then Mom would kind of get tired, but Joan would always go, and Joan would say, now, when she gets to the hill, grab the back of her because she can't slow down. And away she'd go down them. We tried to make her behave. She didn't always. She always said that once you learn to ride a bike, you can always ride a bike. Everybody believe that one? Yeah? What happens if you learn to ride a bike and your bike had the brakes on the pedals? And then you decided you were going to drive your daughter's bike who was 10-speed, only nobody told you where the brakes were. Anybody experience that stuff? My sister was on vacation. She was out at Dad's log cabin out in the woods out back Mom and Dad's place. And Mom and Dad had gone out to visit her, and she had taken her bike back so she could just kind of ride the bike in the wood trail. And Mom decided she wanted to go riding a bike. Only Joan didn't tell her where the brakes were. And so she started going down a hill and went and started, pushed backwards, and the pedals just kept on going. And she ended up going off of the road and fell and broke her collarbone at that time. She's the only one in our family that's ever broken a bone. I don't know whether there's wood to knock on or something, so I won't. She also broke both arms in her lifetime. And so she's kind of our mender type thing, I guess. Mom always had a good word for anybody. And she never liked to ruffle feathers. And she tried to be peace-loving and giving to everyone that she ever met. Like her mother before her, she loved to read her Bible. And many a time, I would walk in and find her sitting with her Bible in her lap, gleaning God's Word, finding His blessings and His praises for her. And whether she was raising her family, teaching Sunday school, leading the WWI, YMWB. Anybody remember YMWB? That was the first time that I ever remember going in a class and having like handmade props made and set up. And I walked in and this room had been transformed. And little did I know that it was my mother that did it. And she made missions come to life for the kids. And I always kind of hoped that maybe my little bit of artistic talent came from her in that way. When she was diagnosed with her brain tumors last summer, she decided not to have any treatments. And much against her children's wishes, we all want our parents to be with us forever. And that always doesn't happen. And so she wasn't scared of dying. She was kind of scared of the road she was going to have to travel to get there. She was looking forward to heaven, looking forward to seeing family, spouse, all of those who had gone before her, and she was looking forward to that. Joan was taking her for a walk around Beulah one day, and she stopped and she asked Mom, she said, "Now, Mom, what song do you want Cedric to sing at your funeral?" And Mom, with no hesitation, said, "He the pearly gates will open." And then she turned to Joan and said, "And I sure hope he will." Knowing my mom's life, I am certain to this day that Mom is residing in heaven with Christ. I'm looking forward to seeing her. This day has been a toughie to get up. Mother's Days have always been tough for me. Not because I'm separated from my mom or my mom's not here now, but they have been for us. Reg and I always wanted children. And I ended up having 2 tubal pregnancies. And so our life of having kids kind of went through the books. And so Mother's Day always kind of brings that memory up to me. But I'm thankful that God has allowed me to be involved in children's ministries in our churches. So if, you have kids and I come over and say hi. It's kind of my replacement thing. I love kids, and I love to see them in church, and I love to see them learning about Christ. And like my mother before me, who taught me that Jesus Christ is my Lord, can be my Lord and Savior, that I needed to accept Him into my life, that I want to pass that on to the kids that we see. Christ's love, mother's love. This year I'm reading through the Message as my Bible of the year, readings, and the message says in 1 Corinthians 13, the love chapter, love never gives up. Love cares more for others than for self. Love doesn't want what it doesn't have. Love doesn't strut. Love doesn't have a swelled head. Love doesn't force itself on others. Love isn't always me first. Love doesn't fly off the handle. Love doesn't keep score of the sins of others. Love doesn't revel when others grovel. Love takes pleasure in the flowering of truth. Love puts up with anything. Love trusts God always. Love always looks for the best. Love never looks back, but keeps going to the end. Love never dies. Whether your mom's here with you now, today, or whether she's gone on to glory, love never dies. Our memories can be kept in our heart. And so this Mother's Day, remember your mom. If you have her, give her a hug. Tell her you love her. And let's make moms the celebration of the day. And enjoy yourself. And I just pray that God will truly be the center of your home and that you'll shed Christ's love to those that are around you that He has given you. I love my mom. I hope you've seen a little bit of her and know just a little bit by the pictures just what a loving and warm woman she was. And I thank you for this time.